For weeks, hundreds of Airbnb hosts have been complaining about their bookings dropping to zero in what people are calling now the Airbnb bust. I have a stake in Airbnb, so I took this personally and asked tens of hosts in places like Madrid, Ibiza, Barcelona, Paris, Rome, the Greek islands, and Miami. And what I found was extremely shocking. So today I'm gonna break down the Airbnbust from a shareholder perspective. First thing is that hosts in Europe were not having the same issues as the hosts in the US. The ones in Miami did have an occupancy hit, but also in line with summer season, which is hurricane season. Not a lot of people come to Miami when there's hurricanes. But most of the Airbnb cases came from second-tier cities in the Midwest or in the west of the US, which enjoyed record bookings back in 2021. Now we know Airbnb has done about 100 million bookings for 3 quarters in a row. So the question is, where did all those bookings go all of a sudden? I believe there's 2 things that happened summer 2022 that sucked every single last drop of excess demand in the US market, leaving novice hosts in the dust. Number 1 was the reopening of Europe. Now in 2021, a lot of people did local vacations. A lot of people went to cabins in the woods, a lot of New York trips, skiing trips to the mountains. It wasn't until the beginning of 2022 that people started traveling abroad, and even then it sucked. I lost 2 flights to Colombia and to Spain in the period between February and March. The COVID restrictions would change every single week, but something started happening on spring. March 14, France removes the vaccine pass. April 9th, the Czech Republic removes all COVID restrictions. April 13th, Greece follows, then Estonia, then Cyprus, Bulgaria, Lithuania and Croatia, Austria, Belgium, Italy, Germany, and Spain. You get the point. The whole entirety of Europe reopen in a period of 3 to 4 months. So all that pent-up demand for Euro trips started coming all at once back to Europe, and that dried most of the excess demand that existed in the US in 2021, especially for cities not named New York, Vegas, and Miami. To illustrate this better, I want you to visualize the change in revenues from Q2 to Q3 in 2022. Notice how the share of bookings in the US dropped from 48% to 41% as travel moved internationally for the first time in 2 years. Now you might be thinking, yeah, it dropped percentage-wise, but there are still $1.2 billion in booking fees. Surely there was still a lot of demand in the US market, which leads me to the second event that solidified the Airbnbust for a lot of hosts in the US. Amateur hour is over, increasing competition. According to Jamie Lane, VP of Research at AirDNA, short-term rentals are in demand with a year-over-year rise of 15.8% in the number of feature nights as of October 2022. But data shows that while the number of bookings has risen, there has been a sharp rise in the supply of available short-term rental listings, up 23.3% in October as opposed to October last year. All of this to say that professional property managers started entering the market in Q1 and Q2 of 2022, outcompeting novice hosts for whatever excess demand was left after the Europe reopening. You can visualize this better in this graph, which illustrates the bump in Q2 in Palm Springs, California, which is where all this Airbnbust reports started coming from. Okay, so this sucks for US hosts, but what does this mean as an Airbnb shareholder? Now, an Airbnb shareholder will not be affected by this. Airbnb is a global company and they benefit from global travel demand regardless of where that demand is geographically pointed to. In fact, this is one of the advantages of Airbnb as opposed to hotel chains. Hotels will need to install physical infrastructure first before they can actually start charging customers, whereas Airbnb can just redirect traffic to wherever the hot pockets of travel are for that year, and they can charge their fees regardless. There's always going to be hosts in whatever area there is, and if demand is high, more hosts will come into a listing. And this is exactly what happened to Bali, Indonesia, before it became the hot spot that it is right now. I believe the same event is happening again on a much bigger scale. Now, if you want to learn how Airbnb makes money on a macro level, I recommend that you check this video in here where I broke everything down, the whole infrastructure, the whole business model, how they make money on experiences as well, and some catalysts that nobody is talking about for next year. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, thank you very much for watching, and next time.